to trusting our own pace and rhythm and the unique unfolding of our soul's journey. And by honoring whatever is and wherever it is that we may find ourselves in any given moment. This video is a response to the most common underlying theme that is found in questions. And one of the questions that I really want to share about that came through repeatedly and quite powerfully. I'm going to put that together to just kind of set the context for this response. The questions that were asked was in the theme that the state of being and doing that you share, not so much in the videos as much as in conversations, totally resonates, and I can feel that to be the truth, but I am not living that yet. One of them that especially came through was in relation to the business that this soul-based, heart-centered, pure, brilliant entrepreneur who actually has a very successful business already. I want to name something that, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, whether it is when it comes to our purpose, whether it comes to doing something relating with the world, parenting, it does not matter. Life is life. So the core is always the same. The nature of the self, mind, direct path. In this, she was asking about in relationship to the business, that the world that I live in and the way that you're sharing with us, the way of this new way of being and seeing that I so deeply resonate with and really would like to live this way. But my world, this way of being and seeing that you're sharing does not fit into, especially when it comes to business. In the world that I live, I need, and I'm told that I need to make a call. I need to make a decision. I need to make a choice. I need to commit. I need to be consistent. I need to show up for this, and I love what I do. The core of what I do is I wouldn't change it. So I know I am following and living what comes naturally to me and sharing that with my world. But I am tired and I am overwhelmed. I feel drained, but I have responsibilities. I have to take care of my family. Many are single mothers, having children. I want to be doing well for myself while I offer that which I love and I know that helps my people and my world. But I am drained. I often find myself overwhelmed working overtime. Because I need to show up. I need to be there for my people. And to run a business, this is, or seems like it is, fundamental. And then I hear and speak with you, and I see the way that you are playing, and it deeply resonates. I wish the world could play like this. I wish I could play like this. And I've been putting up videos and things like that now. It's just like, okay, so the question, our conversation actually began with that, because it's like, do you have a schedule? Do you plan? How are you setting up your day? And how are you doing all of this? That's how the conversation began. She says, I'm tired because of all the figuring out and the work that goes into it. But I love it, and I want to be there for my people and my world. So this is the context. So I was inspired to make this video because the underlying theme of that is the most common. Whenever in our world we see something that we are inspired by, whenever in our world we are I have a cold. Whenever we see somebody else living a certain way, in whatever form, and that we haven't experienced it, and that it inspires us, and it resonates to our heart, it's so natural, right? That when we connect with that. But I want us to observe this very clearly, because everything, like I said, we're going to begin at the core, always points to the core. We see this as if happening outside of us, right? It's happening to another. It's happening in my world. Somebody who may be doing financially really, really well, or we might see somebody who is living a different life, and we tend to see it outside of ourselves at the relative level, valid, right? It's like outside. It's like somebody else is having that, that's what we call as a privileged life, an easier life, or a more expansive life, or experiencing something, oh my God, that feels like is amazing, and I want to experience that. Natural phenomena. But observe how that is put outside of me, the me. This dynamic itself, first and foremost, points to the fact that we are living as a separate self. Simply a phenomena. Again, I want to name this because the Dwapar Yuga mind, which plays in duality, is steeped a natural phenomena of being unconscious, means being primarily identified as a person. That's why the invitation again to hold the paradox. I am consciousness. That's the primary identity. And when I say I am, and please pardon because the body is still, wired, and the language is in duality. So it says this is not the I. I am life. All is life. All is consciousness, manifest. Shakti. That is the first identity. That's primary. The secondary, the relative play that happens within the primary that is of experience, determined by the vibratory nature of the mind, state of mind, state of being, state of consciousness. That determines the level of awareness. All synonyms. That determines experience. This state of mind and consciousness is the only mind which is manifested consciousness. There is only mind, there's nothing outside. That's why at the level of the relative play, it's like a playground. Every state of mind, right, that state determines the identity. What I mean by that is the level of awareness. That determines the perception and everything born from that. What is seen, what is interpreted, everything by the vibration. And therefore the experience, it's a single stream. That is what determines the experience, what we label as time and space by the senses. Shared much about this. Right? So this primary is consciousness. Secondary is the relative. I want to name also another thing. That is why to speak about the non-dual, that which we are, consciousness, simply a word we put to it. To speak and share about the non-dual to a dual mind through, because to speak itself is duality. To speak words, forms, pointers, these are all simply pointers. Because it cannot be thought, it cannot be spoken about. And when we even share about it in words and say that it is a pointer, and this is a natural phenomena, okay, lived through this, where the dual mind that is identified as a separate self, objectified, right, understands things as objects, it's holding itself as a separate thing. Its nature is separate self. So it also, whatever it receives, its level of understanding is based on its identity. So when we say consciousness is, everything is consciousness, there is a very subtle interpretation in that of the dualistic mind where it thinks consciousness is contained in the body. So it says, I get it. I'm not the body, as in this flesh, I'm consciousness. I'm soul. And of course, there are teachings which meet at the words, at that level, right? Because that's like the first step many times. So, they say the soul, you are the soul is in you, God is in you. And so we, even more. Now that is not what I mean by primary consciousness is primary. Because that is taking consciousness and putting it in the object. So the primary is still the object, right? The primary is still the selves, the forms. And now I've added consciousness in it, like pouring water in a bottle. I'm saying all there is the waters, if you were to look at it. So primary is consciousness. The first, all there is awareness. Awareness is not in the body. Awareness vibrates. Manifested consciousness vibrates, simply an appearance. That's why it doesn't fragment itself. The fragmented thing that we identify with, and that's why we think separate self, is the illusion. All is aware. And we use that all is so that it can relate to the mind because it sees the all. I am. So primary is consciousness. Then it's vibrating as if infinite worlds, infinite minds, infinite states of consciousness. Perceivably, that which we think we are as a separate self, that's why we say the state of mind that is, see the state of mind, it's a vibrating. And so we think we are fragmented, separate, and the state of mind is separate. No. Consciousness is, it cannot be fragmented. That's why first is awareness. It's the light of being. That is appearing as states. Appearing, that determines, that's why the level of awareness, experiencing all at the level of illusion, one may say, if we stand as the opposite. So, appearing as a becoming. But when we are primarily identified as the separate self, the minute we put something outside of ourselves, and that is the lens that we are looking through primarily, that is a clue that we are standing as our relative identity first. And those dynamics are completely different. Again, the invitation, this is a phenomena, there is no separate personal self, so don't interpret this as I'm doing a wrong or there is a wrong happening. There is only one divine playing. There only is consciousness. There is no room. There is no outside. There is no another space to make a mistake, to fail, to get it wrong. When we see something outside of ourselves, and then we see that state of being, we desire to be that, and then we say, that is outside. Observe how this phenomena works. The separate self-mind, which I've shared quite a bit about, is the two parts to this, right? The vibrating mind that is vibrating creates the first level of the Dwapar Yuga reality. Feel into this as a phenomena, because that's all the words can take us to. Mind cannot, the mind that we are identified with, that lives the duality, that is the five senses, that uses the words to interpret and to share this, cannot go beyond this, cannot touch that which we are. So, see this as a story. And then explore this, always following your resonance. Know that every state of mind, wherever, is only offering a reflection of its own experience. And that too is a state of consciousness, a unique ratio of unconscious conscious. So that's why every state of mind is deepening, right? So the best place to stand is in our deepest knowing. That's why I always invite, whenever before the video begins, and you can still do this, pause it. I've posted a video about where we can do a centering practice. Begin with the beginner's mind. Just allow these words to be in the field as they arise. These are not thought of words. They're just coming through. So, whatever comes through. So, do that if you want and then come back. Otherwise, just observe and sense into this, however it resonates, how the living is happening for this you that you're identified with. Okay? So, just see this. When the mind vibrates as a state of mind, awareness that is, I am life, all that which we are, one mind that which we are. To put it in as a story, shrinks itself. Now, this state of mind is at the gross level. It's a masculine, dominant, energetic mind. I won't go into the energies, but I just want to state that the mind, that's why I always see non-dual speaks, we only speak in the language of I am awareness. There's more to this energetic. Mind is energy in the sense that manifested consciousness dances as two energies, perceivable two energies, as the feminine and the masculine. The feminine is the source, the masculine is what the same stream of manifested energy is, the tail end, concretized thing. That is what, when the mind is vibrating at a gross level, it is only sensing that which it is and its reality as a material self. That's why these senses are gross senses, masculine, dominant, energetic senses. Its nature is it looks outwards. Its nature determines senses, right? Senses and mind is same. The senses that which we are, many more. We only speak about intuition, that's the beginning of the feminine sense. Deepening into the source, that's why it's coming into the feminine. Masculine, dominant. So only being identified with the five senses, identified with our body, the world, if that is our primary reality, that we look at reality and say, this is who I am, this is what my world is, this is what my reality is, that is all it is. We are living as a masculine, dominant, energetic experience life. The mind is living that which it is, right? We only experience that which we are. We only see that which we are. That's why no perception, expression, experience lies outside of us. Okay. Let's sense into this. Part 1, awareness becomes this thing at the gross level, is sensing at a duller level. So everything is gross. That's why what I see, what I touch, what I taste, this is what makes my reality. And this is the body. Identified as if the awareness is only from the body. Natural phenomena. See this as a natural thing happening. Identification with the body. When the child is born, running, this experience allows us to feel and be physical. The tangible experience. To taste, to chew, to see, to relate as people, to hug each other, to cook and to smell, to hear music. All there is awareness, the knowing of it. But simply at the gross level, when we don't know, when it's unconscious, that means our primary identity is with the body. We think we are the body, and then the experience that, of course, the body comes first, as in the matter. It's my ears that hear. It's my eyes because of that which I see. That becomes our primary experience, and then therefore that's the reality. So we live as matter. Now this is what you see in children, right? Look at children, that's why before they are conditioned. So they're just living, experiencing the tangible world. That's the first level of reality. So even at this level, there are two. Look at that. This is first level reality. Second level reality that makes this reality so real. Here, we are experiencing it as material, right? And like linear. You see, we go from here till there, one after the other, as if everything comes. There are two parts to this. There are two, and they are simultaneous together. Thought. Thought is masculine, dominant. That is why the invitation, as long as we are living as the thought, we are going to live this experience because it's an energetic thing. So thought is the psychological thought, I thought, that we get conditioned with. From the day that we are born, we come into this world. Again, I want to name something. This is simply a phenomena so we can experience this. What it means to live as the conditioned, personal, separate self, I. It's a play of the world. Okay, so then this separate self arises, and slowly we are completely conditioned as this separate self. I want us to sense into this. Here, we are just living the world. Right? Even as a body, even if you're identified, if you're not thinking, we just are. Just moving into the world. But the minute this comes in, separate self, second level illusion, now identified with this self-I thought, that conditions we have taken on from our families, from our environment, from our culture, step out of the wrong and right. Just see it for what it is, that's all. Ideas that we have taken on, the separate self now, it's a concept. So a material, linear time and space, conceptual world. Now we are living as a concept, we only live a conceptual world. And as the minute the center from I am life shifts into this I am, that's why everything is identity. Everything begins with, who is the I that you're talking about? What is this I that you're talking about? That unravels everything. The minute that shift happens to this I am as the body, it's a phenomenon. The center of that wheel, one may say, shifted to this. Naturally, with the arising of this, the world arose outside. And it's opposite. Why is that opposite? Because consciousness that is first primary and then appears as objects. The minute our primary identity becomes the object, form, flip. We've made the secondary as the primary. So the dynamics of that, that's why we say everything in this mind is the opposite. The unlimited experiencing itself as the limited. Opposite. Formless as if as the form. Unknown as if I know. That's why intellect rules. I know. Knowledge leads. Which knowledge? This knowing mind? This is simply living its own conditions, determined by what is simply seen by these eyes. If this becomes my primary, naturally the whole dynamics has flipped. I am living, relatively speaking, unconsciously. Because I'm identified with my limited self. I'm identified with my knowing self only. That's why we say the intellectual mind now rules, which is supposed to be a beautiful tool. The way of playing with this thought. Thought belongs to the world, right? It arose only after the world. It wasn't there before. This knowing that we move around as is all attained from outside. It's intelligence that we say, so intelligent. Its intelligence belongs to the level of the world. That's why I pick it up for practical things, very creative for the world things. Finding solutions if you're working in the world. So it's not about denying this. This allows the experience for the personal conscious mind, the Dwapar Yuga experience of self-empowerment. But again, who is the I am? Who is the self in that? The person. So because of that, we've experienced in the world, which is our most familiar common experience, is of attaining knowledge, right? Since even kids are born, do this, go to school, gain knowledge. Knowledge is power. Which knowledge? This knowledge, this knowing knowledge that belongs to this limited identity. It's all of the world. That's a different, can you sense? This is a different arena. As soon as I'm identified as the body, this separate self, I've shrunk myself. And that is why now I am living in time and space that is larger than me. This is the known that I'm very familiar with, that this is me, this known thing. I can give you a lot of ideas about that and what I've learned in the world. Things that I can see, this intelligence. But that is life, unknown, will always remain a mystery. Right? This is the phenomena. See that as a phenomena. Isn't it natural then that when mind is vibrating at this level as the separate self identified with the body, that when we see something out in the world as primarily this, naturally we've added time space. See this for what it is. The state of mind, I am, if it is our primary identity, will live the dynamics. Every I am will live the dynamics of that which it is. So this here naturally will put things outside it and then observe. At the level of the body that we are experiencing, we can say we have a common human experience, right? Pretty much. Okay, I see, two eyes, or whatever, this experience. That's why we say come to the human experience. And of course, we are not talking about physical anything, right? Of course, we stub our toe, it's going to hurt. We're talking about at the level of psychological, at the level of our psychological experience, we're all living different worlds. Eventually, we'll see that when we know we are energy and we are the mind, and the body is a perception in it, then even this dissolves. I just want to name that. This distinction between the physical and the psychological also dissolves, but for this purpose, let's keep it at that. So psychologically, also if you see that, that's why one culture, person born and living, conditioned in one culture, looks at things, will look at things differently and define it differently, interpret it differently, live it differently, make different choices and decisions than one who's living in another culture. We know this, right? This is quite obvious. We see that. What determines the difference is the conditions, the beliefs. This is only a belief. We say, I believe. Who's the I? The I and the belief is the same. It's all a thought, masculine dominant. Now, this thought, the minute this I is what we are moving as, primarily, what happens? If I'm looking at something and I've put it outside myself, see the phenomena, I put it outside myself, what is perceiving it? The condition that I am, belief that I am, that will determine it. That which I see outside of me, that state of being, you know what? Many ways to look at this. That's going to take me a long time to get to that. And this is what I've shared before because I hear it so often. Yeah, because I don't come from that culture. That person comes from that culture. So maybe it's easier for them. But for us, it'll take a long time to get there. The condition, the identity is the lens, the colored lens through which we see. Somebody else who's conditioned a different way, even if as a separate self, might say, that's possible. They've experienced life where things are possible. Their level of awareness is higher in the sense that possibility is higher, even if it's a belief. That, that I can, and still it's all about attaining. Observe that. Because that's what the separate self has been playing as the Dwapar Yuga that we're familiar with. That which we are cannot be attained. It's not an objective experience. That which we are doesn't lie outside of us. It is already us. Right? It doesn't lie outside of us. But the separate self, because it puts the world outside and those are the dynamics and that's its primary identity, it's unconscious. That thing to understand that it's not attainable, I'm already it, but I'm not, is the conundrum for it. If I'm already it, why am I not experiencing it? And it experiences this, it puts it outside of itself. And we'll come back to this. And then see, it adds time and space. Why? Because it is time and space. Sense into this. When at this level, we are just even at the level of the body unfolding here. There is a sense of being with the now. Everything happens here. There's nothing to think. What's there to think about? But when we pick this thought, what is this thought? We've jumped tracks. We're here thinking. That's why when we are deeply identified with this thinking mind, we are living in time as a concept. We are never living even at this level of reality. That's why we say the thinking mind is invited. Come into the now. Simply a name and a label. Come into the present. Does it come to the present? It cannot. Thought is concept. It stays here only. That's why these are two different dimensions. It's invited this way. So when we tell somebody who's with thought, come into the now, that is the way of inviting it, come into the present. Thought can never be present. The identity of thought itself is here, it's thinking. Thinking is not now, thinking is not being. That's why we say the knowing of this as a thought is not being it. We are being, we are not doing. Another subtle point to notice, very subtle. That is why this separate self is a doer, we say. Of course, we speak in forms as if it's like a static thing. It's actually a doing. When we are thinking, we are doing, right? We are not being. So even at the level of this human experience, we're not human being, we're a human doing. Identified as this concept. I am this is my name, this is my role. Moving as this thought, as the condition. Every reality then is interpreted. This is what we are conditioned as. You know what? This is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. This is how it should be, this is it should not be. Self or the world, same. The lens is the same, only one mind. This is how my world shouldn't be. This is how, it's the same. Superimposing it. So superimposing our meaning-making idea, condition, that which we believe we are, onto ourself and the world. And we live that as the truth. This determines our experience of our world. That's why not everybody is living there. Two people living in the same world, experiencing it differently. Two people being in the same situation take away different experiences from that. What determines that is the way that they've seen it, interpreted it. It's all happening at the subtle level. The gross mind doesn't see this, right? It's all happening at a subtle level. But it's obvious when we open it out like this. So this separate mind is a past. And that's why see these as two dimensions. That's why it's very difficult to speak about the non-dual. It's a different dimension, right? Being is here. The minute I think toward something, that is here. This. The minute reality is flowing, life is flowing already. And flowing, I say, only when I see it as a mind, one after the other. Otherwise, life is. Living is. Every arising moment, if I'm present. And what is this present? Awareness. Where are we conscious? Where is life actually happening? In what? As awareness. Observe this. Now, if I want to put some meaning making, now I move into that thought. Now, if I'm conscious that this is me, then I can play with thought. Then I am the master. This is awareness is the master. This is primary. This space. This thinking is secondary. What happens when we are identified as this thought? Flip. Opposite. This rules. And the condition, as this condition is the right and wrong, I apply it to reality. And this thinking mind is thought. It's never now. It cannot be. The minute I uttered something, I've moved into thought. And by the time I've said a word about what was, it's already the past. It's long gone. So this thinking mind is only the past. And that past only it takes and projects as the future. It lives its own conceptual. So this separate self now, observe this, sees something outside of itself, phenomena. Naturally, what are the colored eyes that are seeing? The conditioning determines whether that is possible for it or not. And as a doer, see, everything is so beautifully structured for that reality to feel true. Otherwise, as consciousness, that this game of this state of being and self, body, mind, world wouldn't feel real. Right? So for it to feel real at the relative level, click, 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 all this happens. And now we look at it, and the conditioning of it is the lens through which we look at that. And then that determines possible, not possible, this, that. And what is determining that? Is the thought. What is thought? Time and space, distance, condition. Only as the separate self we put things outside of it. But we cannot perceive anything that we are not already. That is the nature of consciousness. Why? What is consciousness? Where is consciousness? To be conscious, to be aware. Here, right? That's why the invitation always come into the now, come into the body, where the body is always present. In there, aware, become aware. Be here now, the spaceless space, awareness. What about this? This identity is the state of being, doing, that I share, which I say is this space, because many have asked, I need to awaken, so they're waiting. No. This kind of process can make us grace prone to awaken. Because awakening, all that in that sense is at the level of that which we are. It already is. And primary is consciousness. So everything happens at the level of consciousness. So when we say the consciousness, that which we are, is awakening as the mind. That was at the level of energy. The mind was vibrating at a gross level, is now starting to get deeper. That's why it's about thought. Feminine is the feeling, and actually, even when I just stop at the feeling, I'm stopping at the relative level because it's attached to the body, right? Actually, the feminine is the source. I'm not going to share in this another time. Feminine, the awakening process, and the feminine rising is the celebration of the energetic phenomena that is happening at the level of manifested consciousness. She is the source. She is the gateway. Awakening at the level of thought, we talk only about awareness. Energetically, that's what it is. It's the feminine that is the subtle, the hidden. That, when she starts rising, the experience of awakening happens. And the feminine, that's why. The masculine looks outwards, and that's why we hear so much talk about transcendence, moving out, as if going away, facing outwards. That's the tail end, facing outwards. Feminine is inwards. It's a nature. Immanence. Shakti's nature. All is me. What is at any level is me. That's the gateway. Feminine. See, this is paradoxical. It's opposite. Be with what is. That's why acceptance, being absolutely present without any sense of the unconscious masculine that wants to move away. Its way of energetic expression is by rejecting, by denying, moving away into the next. What we resist persists. The feminine honors and is with what is. As awareness, the feminine knows. She's the source. As awareness, what arises, right? She's the deeper sensing. That's why the feminine is the intuition. The feminine is the deeper sensing, right? The mind that which we are vibrates at so many different frequencies that determines its sensing ability. Here at the gross level, the gross experience. That's why when we come into the feminine, we say we're coming deeper. Sensitivity. And this sensitivity is not the fragile sensitivity that the masculine mind thinks of the body. Oh, I'm sensitive. This sensing is a pure power. Right? This is why all thought is noise, mind, talk, words coming into silence. More quieter the being, that deeper sensing happens. That's why the invitation come inwards. That's why the invitation, know thyself, turning away from the world. Not in a way to reject the world. In fact, that's why when we come from this, we really can be there for our world. Because there is no we. It's the innate intelligence that moves as the gift that it is for the world. As awareness, what arises in my awareness is not outside of me. It is me. This is the thing that the separate self does not see. Shared this in my seekers video as well, that's why. As long as I stand as the seeker, as an identity, that means I'm identified with the body and this idea, that's why seeker, noun, as if I'm a form. Then I keep waking up and putting this, whatever I'm seeking outside of myself, thinking I'm seeking. No, what we seek is what is seeking us, as in we are that is experiencing seeking through us. Just be. We already are that. We are the one divine that is living. The being becoming. The being's identity becomes primary relative, then that happens. Anyway, so coming back to this. To see that itself, separate self, to stand as the separate self, putting something outside, ding, 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 ding. The minute we see this, ding, 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 I put something outside of me. What arises in my awareness is me. When we stand as awareness And that's why the invitation always is one and the same in the end. Be aware, whatever your level of awareness is, even if you're seeing through that lens, because the true self and being aware as mind is different, doesn't matter. We are honor where you find yourself. Every present moment is perfect for where it is, what we are. Honor yourself. Now, directly to answer the question, briefly, step by step. Just to see that it has been put outside means primarily, predominantly, the identity is living as a person, separate self, form. And when we live as predominantly as a certain the mind is vibrating, that is the nature it will have to live. We think as form, the minute we get a concept, we think the form changes to another form. That's why changing of habits, all of this at the superficial level that the form tries to do, becomes so hard. What we don't realize is we are energy. It's already happening. And energy is not one thing. I've shared this before. The mind, energy is little tamas, little rajas, little sattva. We find ourselves all, everywhere. We are constantly moving through frequencies. It's never one. We are kind of inhabiting more. So parts of us, in that sense, that's why I say it's a ratio of unconscious and conscious always. At the relative level, state of mind will always be that. On some subjects, we'll have the tamas, right? The stickiness, this thing. On some subjects in the middle, some subjects, sattva. I'm talking at the energetic level now, not as that I am awareness. Standing as I am awareness, we are aware. We can see. That evolution is happening, right? That. So now, when we are predominantly identified as a separate self, still, transformation is at that level. We need to live that. So to the questions that are asked, that okay, I'm living in a world, this was asked, I'm setting up the business, and this is the model that needs to work this way because I need to be consistent, I need to show up. I get overwhelmed, but I need to plan, I need to strategize. Why? Separate self is strategizing because it sees the future. So we need to plan for the year ahead, put projects up, commit to it, do all of that. If that is the model, honor that. Do that. See, this is not about efforting and pushing ourselves into something else. That's how the separate self is. We cannot push ourselves and effort and do it into this. It naturally happens. Please see this. What it is whenever we find ourselves on those topics where we, right, because that's supporting us and that's our responsibility. So it's not about suddenly, leave this responsibility and go away. No. So be true and honest to that which we are living as a belief predominantly. And explore. Make this playful. That is why even if conceptually to remember, I am consciousness. I already am everything. Even at the level of belief, if you want to take it. Why all this helps? Only one purpose for all these words. To believe, to develop trust, faith, and surrender. Because what is surrender? Being with what is. Not applying this thought, conditioned thought, that pushes us into this forced, efforted doing. So this, at this point, this is the doer. Its nature is to effort. It's going to do that effort. That's fine. I've shared that before. Now, what about the other parts? Come out of business, we have some time, we have vacation time, we're doing something else. Play there. Play there. Explore there. This new state of being that you hear. As in, what is it? Name about the true self way, right? So the question was asked, do you do videos, do you do this and that? The true self is awareness. Living as awareness is living now, timelessly. There's no past, there's no future. So, living here, right now, taking the next step. It's pure response to the arising of life as what is. There's no grasping that this conceptual mind lives the morals, values. Tell me what is the right thing to do. Tell me what is the way. I'll hold that as if a memory, smriti, right? And apply that concept. That's why it needs concepts. How do I parent? This is what it is. Love your children, but don't love them like this. Tell this to your children. That world will need those needs that many books. It needs that many concepts. Well, all that is really needed is the innate intelligence to be present with that awareness, not even as our child, as awareness, response. That's why I want to name this from outwardly, and this is also because this was received, this seems so unpredictable. When we live as the true self, that is why this conceptual looking, seeking mind that looks at you does not understand a true self, because they're not graspable. They're not walking a path that can be mimicked. Sometimes it's a left, sometimes it's a right, sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no. Life lives only from the timeless and flows from that. Intuition. Intuition happens only in the now. It is not a concept to be held. It's like damming the water. The water just flows from the least crack. It just is in the present wherever it finds itself. Right? So look into this. So the true self, as the true self, we simply are. So whenever you find yourself, even as a separate self, in these ways to play, timeless. That's why I say be aware. Don't pick the thought up. I've shared many practices about this. Become aware. See how you're moving again as your thought. Even when there's no need to, we pick the thought, we are planning, waiting at the cars, at the red light, thinking. There's no need to do that. Habit. Because it's energetic. Please, that's why for the personal mind, these concepts are needed. Be compassionate. Have courage. Only for the personal mind, because it thinks it's a person, it's doing it. You're not doing anything. It's the energetic momentum. Anything that is practiced will have that momentum. That's all. So now that you're aware, right? Awareness, it's risen in the awareness, become aware. Thought, there I am again. That's all. That's where it begins, that's where it ends. Become present. Keep doing it as many times. What's the hurry? Be a consciousness. Do not allow the world's definitions and its state to rush you through. Stand in your sovereign space. Honor your own pace and your own rhythm. Do not take on or become aware of the nature of the thought that you live as in the world that is living the condition where you take on that. I must be this. I should be this. Drop that. Trust in your innate goodness. Trust in your innate goodness. You are the path. Pathless path. You are a unique unfolding. Trust your way. Drop the shoulds, the musts, the have-tos. Trust your pace. If in the moment you need rest, so it is. Trust that. This comes up so often. Perhaps that's why the words came through. Trust that. Honor yourself. Okay. So, true self plays like this. There's no future, there's no saying, I am life. The true self way. I am life. This is liberation. Actually, to use the liberation to the dual mind thinks there's an opposite of liberation. It thinks freedom to bondage. This liberation is out of that duality. It is this thing. It's liberation. Move as that. This liberation. It's not bound by time, concepts, ideas, even though the body is unfolding in time in this thing. So that's why the body belongs to the world. That's why I say practices are valuable and definitely this thing for the world. So that's why I hold this paradox. The body, the thinking I, the world, all has this nuances. Let it be. Right? So it needs time to whatever it feeds this thing. But that which I am, that which I am. Conditions of it. Don't get caught in that. So there's no planning. So somebody was asking this? No. That's why this is a different dimension, this is a different way of being, where we as intelligence, the doing naturally happens. It's not according to a schedule. It's not according to concepts. Be consistent, be this, that. Because the separate self is attached to outcomes. Because it thinks it's the cause. It needs to generate money. It needs to do all of that. True self is life itself, and life beautifully supports itself. The I am is a complete system in its own self. There is nothing outside of consciousness. I am. The baby in the womb, the separate self wasn't there. Perfect, healthy baby was born. Heart, blood, whatever it was. Was there another there monitoring it? It's exactly like that. Only the separate self has its ideas of what it wants to do, what it is. And therefore, it thinks it has to make it happen. We are the choice. The separate self thinks I need to manifest. So see that as an afterthought that comes later and applies. It's illusion, secondary, it comes later and applies its ideas. This is the I am manifest. The body, this thing is already the manifest. I am life in manifest form. What is there to think about? So that's why this inspiration uniquely arises as a loving. See that. Every perceived state of mind is a flow of the one uniquely flowing. Somebody gets that inspiration from inside. I want to do this project. I want to do some whatever technical project. This state of mind, this unique flow, this inspiration arises. It's a loving. It's not tethered to anything. It is not doing this to fix anything, the world or itself or anything. This is a unique, it's a loving. It's complete by itself. It's a fullness, like a wave overflowing. Like a sharing of its living. And that is enough. To put it in words. There's nothing outside of it. And living timelessly, because conscious lives in all time. Timelessly. If you can hold all these paradoxes, it is whatever it has to so-called serve, because the separate self asks, how will I serve my people? The true self says, the concept of serving the people itself, this itself will touch who it needs to touch, whatever. That's how the phenomena is. The separate self need not come and even use concepts like this is the highest good, this. None of that exists. All is life. So everything is ever serving. So working as this, working as this, working as this. See this. See this for what it is. That's why this is liberation. There's no need to think. That which is, and this is a absolute being okay with the perfection of what is. What is chaos to the thinking mind that seems like chaos? What are you talking about? Look outside. This one getting triggered, that one getting triggered, this one harming this. What looks chaos to the separate self is divine order of experiencing at the relative level, without which experiencing the flavors, the nuances, the colors, the paintings won't happen. For something to happen, it needs those gradations. It needs all of that. That is the becoming. But innately, Purnamada, Purnamidam, even as a perceived part, wholeness is the innate. It's the one divine being playing. So, like these one divine being, 5 fingers, they're all different. The outside mind says all these fingers need to be at the same height, the same thing, doing the same thing. Every state of mind, this world that we see, is an amalgam of states of mind. Each state of mind is our own face, the one that which we are, one consciousness, simply experiencing its own unique experience, living its own, we are all each living its own karma, unfolding, innately sovereign, identified primarily as consciousness, is to meet every state of consciousness primarily, first and foremost, as my own face. That's why they say, right? Treat another like you would treat yourself. It's pointing to that. Consciousness. And then comes the relative experience. And when we are as I am awareness, the response is, that's why, intuitive. And always in service, whether the outward answer looks kind or harsh or looks like a yes or a no, is secondary. Swadharma. Each swa lives its dharma. When we live as the swa, the one I am life, then there is nothing to think, no concepts, just unfolds. This is effortless. Can you see? When we are in the separate self, doing a business, there is a lot of going back, strategizing, checking, did this work, analytics, do this, do that, because somebody is asking, see the videos, see if you got the followers, all of that. That's the separate self's way of playing. Simply a different dimension. This, I am life. And life happens only now. And if it has happened, it's serving. Who is the separate? There's no separate self to go back and forth to think. We are absolutely and completely one in with as what is. There's no difference between I am and what is. This becomes one. That's why even these videos, it doesn't matter when you see them, if you see them at all. And when you see them, if it resonates, it's supposed to meet you then. That resonance that you feel is your inner compass. Keep your attention there. With your resonance. See what resonated. Take just that. That's the thread. If you're calling doesn't resonate, let it go. You are unique, living unique. Your own path, you are the answer. It cannot come from outside. So that's why the true self way is effortless. Outwardly effort happens, right? Inspiration to create these videos. So funny. I was telling somebody, I create a lot more videos than I actually have the time to put them up. In the sense that sometimes it's just an inspiration, right? I have conversations more than I don't have time to make videos. But inspiration to speak, this comes, it has its own energy, it feeds itself to create these videos or to have a conversation, right? And sometimes it's 5 times in a day. The thinking mind, whether you think it's your thinking mind or my thinking mind, it's the same. Even my thinking mind doesn't understand this way. It cannot understand. If I take it to my thinking mind, it'll look like, what am I doing? I get caught in that. No thinking, just being. And that's why, when we are identified with this thinking mind, this way of being in surrender is like flailing, falling off a cliff. For who? This thinking mind. Life lives. Deepen into this and see. Because this has been my path. Effortless effort. So outwardly it looks like I'm putting effort. Right? I mean, at the level of body, mind, manifestation. And that's why when we are primarily identified as the body mind, we only see the outer manifestation and we mimic that. We think, look, that person made an effort and that's why it's happening. And it thinks it's that effort that is the cause for what they got. No. That is what you see outside. The effortless part that I'm saying is the consciousness that arises. I want to name this. This is what somebody has asked. How I sense this. It's this fullness that arises as a loving. Then it flows. Sometimes it's a song, right? I've even put songs. Because it's that. Just singing. Or something else. Not just here on video, I mean even otherwise in life. It just comes. And then there are times, that's why there's no planning here. I cannot plan. Because there are times when just call to be. It calls inwards, hermit phase. This is unpredictable. That's why this way of being does not fit with society and the mind that is living the ways of society. When we start living like this, that's why we come out of that society ways. I want to name this. Like to my dear friends and everybody, I just tell them, hey, I cannot plan. I don't know. Really, I don't know. And since this becomes your primary, once you know that which you are and the gift that is pouring into this world, this is what is living. There's no separate work versus personal life. No. There is one living. It's integrated living. Right? Otherwise, as a separate self, there are two, right? Work life, then we come back and then we do our hobbies. That's how we teach our kids. Make the money, do this, do all of that, and then come back and do your hobbies on the side. That's how we live fragmented. We go to work. Now you'll see, everything's consciousness is transforming. So everything is transforming, whether the mind knows it or not, the thinking mind. You'll see the ways of working in companies to make money and come back, that thing is already at the energetic level gone. We're seeing it now at the manifested level. You'll see. We are not going to be going to work to earn money. Not going to happen. That's a very different gross level way of playing. Nothing but beautiful experience, that state of mind. But we're done with it. Now, we're waking up to the power that we are. Not the self-empowered power that we got from our status, outer money, stability from that. That's a different experience where the person itself, right? That's why innately recognizes that it is unstable because the identity is limited. We sense that for ourselves. And that's why the gaining of power from outside. As money, as education, as this thing, whatever that is, right? Living that. So it's always tethered to something. Right? And its innate identity, whether we can name it or not, is lack and scarcity. And that's why it's like that. It's a hole that we're trying to fill all the time. That experience is different. This is complete in itself. Consciousness. There's nothing outside. Pure perfection. Synchronicities. That's why the personal mind calls as miracles magic. We are life. Why would we not support ourselves? Whether that perceivable support comes from the perceived outer or not. Our innate energetic self is not as that person separate. then there's no sense of unconscious dependency. Now we are conscious as consciousness. So there's no neediness. Everything gets taken care of. This is living as choiceless awareness. What I mean by that is that the I am that is flowing through itself is the innate choice. And it's uniquely flowing from that timeless dimension, that which we are. It needn't be put in a concept or a theme of what is my purpose, this is the choice, looks like that I'm flowing. None of that. What is the need to know? This is playing, pure play, that's why. Untethered way of playing, which looks like very, that's why, my friend says, my God, it looks like fearless, like courage. Now that fear and fearless are the dynamics of duality. This is even beyond that. Because to think is when that fear thing comes up, right? It's all the dynamic of the separate self. Stepping out of that. There's no thought here, just is with what is. I am life, this intimate, absolute. This can happen when the only obstacle that time and space. What brings this time and space? This gap, this thinking, thought, separate self. This collapses. This way of living, that's why the giving and the receiving is one. Everything becomes one. The paradox, that's why. The one that lives the paradox comes together. Consciousness, that's the exciting times we're living. Living as power, each at the outer level, if you were to say and put it in the words of duality, you would say, each state of mind, sovereign, Swadharma, Swatantra, the kind of liberation we experience, directly determined by the Swa, self, I am identity, Sarvamangalam, whether as a part or whether as whatever level I play as, I am blessed auspiciousness. There is nothing outside of the I am. That is what we are. That the we, that this thinking mind cannot get. It's a different dimension. This thinking mind is only for this world of intellectual play. It can only come this far. Beyond this, the mind dissolves. The thinking mind, it cannot. Right? It cannot. We have to be. That's why the knowing of all of this is not the being. All this is for the knowing so that this can be surrendered to be. Thinking of it, that's why, just because we think of an idea, is not the living of it. The living is different. This gap, sense this gap. So two things here. Trusting our own pace and rhythm, all at the relative level. The unique becoming and unfolding of our soul. It's the soul, the Atman, even with the Brahman, the one self. It's all one. Simply playing the illusion, trusting that. This is for the words for the separate self. Trust your own pace. Just surrender and say, where I am. Do you know how this feels like? Really, I'm telling you. Wherever I am is perfect. Whatever I am is perfect. Whatever arises is perfect. Whatever hasn't happened is for my good. Whatever has happened is also for my good. There is no stepping out of the goodness of life. However it might be experienced on the outside. To have these eyes, how is this also serving? Okay, so, and then, this is not about efforting to get to any other place. First and foremost, honoring where we find ourselves. Please don't effort. It's like the opposite. In fact, many a times that I've shared with this, where people have said that really when we start enjoying wherever we are, momentum picks up perceivably. Be at ease. I am life. It's only this ease, the way is through. It's only when the consciousness, right, acceptance, positivity. What does that really mean? It brings us into a sense of ease. We've seen something. It's fine. That relaxation allows for the vibrating mind to loosen. Natural phenomena. This personal I that is resistance to what is, trying to effort, right? What is, but it wants to be somewhere else, wants to be doing another state of mind. Resists even more. Phenomena. And this thought is masculine. What does masculine energy do? Concretizes, hardens. We become our own shackle. Our thought, our questioning, our insistence for understanding also, saying that unless I understand, I cannot move forward. Natural phenomena. We lived that for a long time. Comes from that. We become our own shackle, our own obstacle. Somewhere we have to surrender. All roads lead to Rome. All roads will lead to surrender. Eventually the mind will dissolve. That is the gap, the change of the dimension actually. Dual, non-dual, right? Shiva Shakti, one and the same. Shiva, pure consciousness, that is natureless. In order to experience, appears becoming the mind. Shakti as nature. They both can never be apart. Never. They are one and the same. But they are paradox at the level of seeing, because they are opposites, as if facing outwards, as if that's why they never meet. The form, that's why the level of form when we play cannot meet the formless. But the formless form is one and the same. That's why the non-dual and the dual is the same. But to bring the non-dual into dual at the level of understanding, impossible. They're too different. Tough to put this into words. Again, I want to bring it back to this one thing. All of these words. One space to be aware. Be that which you are. Aware. Awareness. Drop the thought. The masculine concretization drops. Feminine is the source. Awareness. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. So much love. This life is pure loving, but this love, unconditional love, is not the conditional love that we are familiar with. It's all allowing of what is, because everything in every moment is perfectly moving, happening. To living and celebrating, one and the same. That is why whenever anything arises in your awareness that you put outside of yourself, celebrate. You couldn't have perceived another person's that if you were not already vibrating at that level. That's the miracle. So celebrate this living, which is a celebrating of an awakened body, mind, world. Much, much love.